Well, here we are, the Season 2 finale. One of the things that haven't come to pass is that we are no wiser to the whereabouts or the status of Jeff Tracy. But they did state that for the first 2 seasons he would not be in it, so maybe the 3rd season will give us an insight as to where he will be. But as for this episode, it wasn't as confrontational between the Hood and the mechanic as we would like to have believed. Because the impression I got, particularly from the return to Season 2 with the episode Power Play, is that there was going to be a massive square-off in the final, pitting the mechanic versus the Hood. And the Hood was almost an afterthought in this episode. It's almost to the degree of he is the focus of the episode, but he wasn't the focus of the episode. The focus of the episode was more on Brains versus the mechanic. And what I find really redeemable about this is Brains was actually almost extending an olive branch to the mechanic, saying, look, you're a victim. Let us help you. And that I found to be a very redeeming and quality charm about the writing with regards to that. The episode itself, once this got rolling, the momentum never stopped. And I like that the whole team were involved. I mean, even Alan, even though he wasn't in Thunderbird 3, he was assisting in Thunderbird 2. I mean, for Thunderbird 4 to participate for the coffee break it was in for this episode was nothing short of wonderful. The only thing I kind of raised an eyebrow with, and I'm not an engineer or a physicist, so, you know, I don't pertain to know how this would work, and I'm glad somebody pointed out how Scott could actually fix the tube car whilst it was actually in a tube vacuum, so he could actually get underneath and do the repairs whilst not being throttled at indescribable speeds. But considering that the Rolls-Royce grille is supposed to retract so that it has enough air intake whilst it's going in the air, it did make me question how long could Fab 1 actually stay in the air anyway, even using the magnetic lock whilst it was carrying the Hood in that rescue pod, which I also thought was a nice addition for Thunderbird 1 to actually have that in there as opposed to just having a winch control, because one of the things that the show was criticised for in the beginning was the removal of the mobile control unit, but because of Thunderbird 5's expanded role, it's like the mobile control unit was up in space. So I'm glad that Thunderbird 1 has actually been given much more to work with as the season has progressed, where you're able to see more and more what it's able to do. And because Thunderbird 1's use has always been, it's the first response unit vehicle to be first on the accident scene, and Thunderbird 1 still carries that importance, but when it had things like the mobile control unit removed where Scott would be the eyes and ears, it kind of lost a few respect points from some people, because like, ooh, like, do you really need to go there? But then you start seeing these other little aspects and additional features being added, and it's like, okay, we're cool with this. This actually works with us. It does beg to question where this will go for Season 3, because the Hood is free once again. But it wouldn't be much of an antagonist or a foil for International Rescue if he was kept locked up behind bars. And were they referencing Mullion and Transom at the end of the episode? Because one of the guys one of the characters had his hair braided, and it looked very similar to how Mullion looked in the 2004 movies. I'm like, whoa, were they referencing that? It could be completely random and coincidental, but that's the vibe I got. But yeah, solid action-packed episode from start to finish. What can I say? The regulars turned in a decent performance, and I did like the little exchange between Parker and Penelope where you hear Parker go, "Flippin' Struve," and Penelope covering Sherbert's hair is like, "Parker! Language!" But flippin' and Struve, that's... I mean, for a family-rated show, you could think, okay, you don't really need to go there with that, but in terms of explicits, that's not even a 0.5 on the curse, that's not even a 0.5 on the curse radar. So, and hearing Andre in hysterics, being tossed about like a pasta parcel in that rescue escape pod. You could tell they had fun this week. So yeah, voice acting was just great. Animation-wise, I mean, it's Weta Digital and Milk VFX, and they cover the best aspects of their animation with action in the sea, the air, and space. I feel like the sea and in space is where they really expand upon, because where they really shine is the underwater sequences, and I've seen this so many times with the Thunderbird 4 episodes where they're really able to create these photorealistic digital worlds. And whilst it's cool with what they do with the model set animation pieces, with the model sets, there's something otherworldly that you see whenever they go underwater. And the same thing in space. The animation really lends itself to another world, for lack of a better description, but they always shine with these things. So it's Weta Digital. It's not Weta Digital. Weta Workshop. Excuse me. Weta Workshop and Milk VFX. So you're getting your money's worth and then some. Seriously, nominate these people for a BAFTA for Thunderbirds or Go. They deserve it. Like I said before, it does beg to question, where do they go now? Because the mechanic is in custody, primarily for his own good and for his own safety, because the Hood knows how to play mind games with him, pun intended. And it does beg to question, where does this go now? Whether the mechanic was withdrawn simply because it was a failed experiment on the writing part, I don't know. But I felt like with the mechanic story arc, it went to some very, very dark places in this season, particularly the two-parter Up from the Depths, particularly when Thunderbird 4 was crushed in half. Now, granted, it was not a person being crushed in half, but the Thunderbird craft are considered characters, and to be able to have that kind of dark intensity within the confines of a family-rated show, but still carry the importance of, I don't want to say carry the importance of a death, but carry the importance of a loss and make it hit home. That's when you're able to, like I say, have that impact, but not have it cross that line where you think, ooh, maybe this shouldn't be a family show, you know? And maybe next season we'll have that all-important question finally answered. Where is Jeff Tracy? Because they had said for the first two seasons, Jeff would not be in it, so it would give the boys a chance, the boys and KO, a chance to shine and be able to step out from their father's shadow. But Jeff is as synonymous with Thunderbirds as David Hasselhoff is to Knight Rider, or the Trans Am is to Knight Rider, or Mark Hamill's The Joker is synonymous with the Batman franchise. So, I don't know. As to whom they will get to voice Jeff, I think is still unclear, because my first choice would have been Bill Paxton, but he's sadly no longer with us. So I don't know. In all honesty, there are only two options I think they can go with. One is to go for someone completely unknown, take the Christopher Reeve route and have, an unknown from the field of acting so that they can carve that role as their own. The other choice, and this is, honestly, just go with me on this, I think the other one that they could go with is George Clooney, because he's got that very suave and very charming Cary Grant type of voice that I think would suit Jeff Tracy to a T. See what I did there? But, yeah, this was a great episode. Action-packed from start to finish. And it was a great way to close off Season 2. So, until Season 3, which I'm guessing is going to likely be around the same time of September, October next year, from After the Storm and Dynamic Night Entertainment, we shall see you next mission. Good night from the night. And happy holidays.